Hey everyone, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate all of the attention and time you give us to tune in each week and watch these. And if it's your first one, welcome. These are supposed to be informational and helpful to you, whether you're a marketing person or not. My name's Christian Brown. Normally, Diane Kaplan, my business partner, is here with me, but she's out with a client, so you're stuck with me this week. I'll just jump on in. I'm going to make this as quick as possible, but this is something that's really been heavy on my mind, and so I think it's important and would love your feedback on it. I'm going to break it down for marketers and for not marketers, and the topic is information or knowledge paralysis, meaning when you know something, let's talk non-marketers first. When you know a product or service so well that you have a difficult time communicating to a person or a group that does not know the product or service that you offer as well. You have a hard time explaining it, right? And sometimes you may not even realize that you need to explain it, and that's a big issue. So just think of when you were first becoming knowledgeable or aware of this product or service that you're now an expert at, possibly. What was that first step that took you to gather more information about what you now know really well, and how do you use that information to convey your message and your topic, your subject matter, to your potential clients at this point? It goes back to the old adage of don't miss the tree for the forest or the forest for the trees. There's or I just heard this week, don't let the dust get in the way of the data. All of these have the same meaning of you've got to relate to who you're talking to, and if you're in a room of field experts, then that's a totally different subject matter. But we've run into it just here recently, in that people are trying to communicate something that's quite complex, specifically services that are quite complex and non-ordinary, to the mass market, specifically here in Houston. And it's difficult in that we have to coach them on dumbing it back down so it's relatable. So hopefully that made sense for non-marketers. For marketers, information or knowledge paralysis, in my mind, sounds like you're talking to a client or a potential client or a friend about what you do, and you're using so many terms that they do not understand, they do not relate to. You don't ever think about going back to the learning phase in which you incurred as maybe a beginning marketer or an advertising communication specialist, to remember that there was a point that you didn't know what you do know now, and how important it is to have a learning process as you onboard someone, whether it's an employee or a client, to make sure that they understand what you're talking about. Specifically in our day and age, this really applies to the digital world. There are so many SEM, PPC, click-through rates, impressions, right? I can go on. And it's not that it only applies to digital, but because digital is still very new, specifically for a lot of people that own businesses who have not been exposed to what all this means and how you go about running a strong digital campaign. You walk in and you start to click through something that's very easy for us to talk about as marketers, and it goes way over their head. And the fault is whether we like it or not, on marketers. And it's not just digital. This could apply very easily to TV, reading a TV schedule, a radio schedule. There's a lot of different things we could talk to about a brand concept, or something as easy as what is a mood board. And we've talked about these things before, but as marketers, we have to remember that not everyone is a marketer. It would be like an engineer walking in and talking to me about something that I don't know anything about. It would go straight over my head, and that's an opportunity lost. So hopefully this makes sense. Something that's really interesting to me, that our brains, once you know something, it's hard to unknow it, and it's hard to remember when you didn't know it, and how that impacts your daily life, both in business and in personal life, in that not everyone is like you, and you're unique, and that's awesome, but you also need to remember that you need to communicate clearly and explain yourself thoroughly. So that's it. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week, and until then, we'll see you later. Bye, guys.